Bad API design makes developers hate your product. As an experienced software developer, you can easily tell if an API was designed with care and a great developer experience in mind, or if it was rushed and duct taped together. In this video, I will show you 5 rules of good API design so fellow developers love working with your APIs. The most important thing is clear and consistent naming. You might know your domain in and out, but a third-party developer might not. The same objects should always be addressed with the same names, and your naming conventions should stay consistent across all of your endpoints. If, for example, your endpoint for getting users is called /users, your order endpoint should be /orders and not, for example, /getOrders. If you are developing web APIs, use HTTP status codes like they are meant to be. When it comes to web APIs, HTTP already defines a set of status codes you can use to tell a developer what happened when they called your endpoint. You do not have to support all of the 60+ status codes that exist, but at least consider the most important ones like 200, 404, or 500. Another thing that developers love are error messages that actually help them. Let's look at 2 different error messages for the same endpoint. While with the first one you have to debug manually and guess what request the endpoint will accept, the second one tells you what kind of data is missing or invalid. Good error messages have a machine-readable code or label to understand what type of error was made that can be handled in the front end, and a human-readable message for other developers. Your error format should be consistent across all of your endpoints. Also, you should always return any kind of validation error you got and not return them one by one. A good API makes it easy to use it right and hard to use it wrong. This one might be hard when you know your domain inside out, because you have to take the point of view of someone with no prior knowledge. What will they expect your API to behave like? Some of the techniques to make an API easy to use right are: first, good defaults. If some parameters are not necessary or are distributed like 80-20, you should make the most common cases the default behavior. Second, make invalid states impossible. You have to take care about how your backend handles invalid requests. Invalid data like contradicting values or malformatted requests should never lead to any kind of success. Third, fail out and early. If the request is wrong, reject it as early as possible with a clear error message. Try not to interpret what someone probably meant with their wrong data. To achieve this goal, you should share your API as early as possible with someone with little knowledge to check if it's self-explanatory. A good guideline is avoid breaking things, and if you have to, version them. One of the most frustrating things is that when you implemented an API and it suddenly stops working, although nothing has changed on your end. If you are working on a small internal API, you might just check in with your colleagues about breaking changes. But when your API is used in public, things are very different. If you have to break things to fix earlier made mistakes, you should version your API so nothing that has worked before suddenly stops working, and third-party developers have enough time to migrate to your new API before you decide to mark them as deprecated. There is much more to say about good API design, but with these 5 principles you can already sort out a lot of friction for third-party developers using your APIs. If you want to dive deeper into API architecture, let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to see how we created the most developer-friendly API, you can check out our backend as a service platform pylo, which is currently in closed beta. If you want to join, let us know in the comments, write us an email, or go directly to pyloapp.com and sign up for the closed beta.